here that we are at stage 6, paragraph page 494. And our last headword was by, new word type of lesson. Okay, so let's start with revision. Ready?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. First, let me just scroll down. First question. Do you think a young person should be allowed to plan their own future without the interference of their parents? Do you think a young person should be allowed to plan their own future without the interference of their parents? Yes or no?
Yes.
I think a young
I
person
think a young
should be
person
allowed
should
to
be
plan
allowed
their
to
own
plan
future
their own future
without the
without
interference
the
of
interference
their parents.
of their parents
Why? Why do you think so? Because?
because it's their life.
Oh, very good. Good reason. Okay, next. What are the two basic types of auxiliary verb in English? What are the two basic types of auxiliary verb in English? The two basic
The
types
two
of
basic types
auxiliary
of
verb
auxiliary
in
verb
English are
in English are
primary auxiliaries
primary
and
auxiliary
modal
and
auxiliaries.
modal auxiliary.
What are the primary auxiliaries? What are the primary auxiliaries? The primary
The
auxiliaries
primary
are the
auxiliary,
verbs
the
be,
verb
have,
be,
and do.
have, and do.
Very good. When do we use the auxiliary be? When do we use the auxiliary be? We use the
We use
auxiliary
the
be
auxiliary
to
be
make the
to
continuous
make the
tenses
continuous
and the
tenses
passive voice.
in the passive voice.
Give me an example. Give me an example, please. I am speaking
I am
English
speaking
now.
English now.
This book was
This
printed
book was
in
printed
England.
in England.
When do we use the auxiliary have? When do we use the auxiliary have? We use
We
the
use
auxiliary
the
have
auxiliary
for the
have
perfect
for the
tenses.
perfect tenses.
Give me an example. Give me an example, please. He has gone
Who has
to
gone
Scotland.
to Scotland?
Very good. When do we use the auxiliary do? When do we use the auxiliary do? We use
We
the
use
auxiliary do
the auxiliary
for the
do
present
for the
simple
present
and
simple
past simple.
and past simple.
Give me an example. Give me an example, please. I don't speak
I
Spanish.
don't speak Scar- I don't
Spanish.
speak Spanish.
Did she eat the pasta? Did she eat the pasta?
No.
Oh no, not that. That's the answer. Did she eat the
Uh,
pasta? Okay,
did
repeat.
she,
Did she eat the pasta?
did she eat pasta?
Very good. That's one use of the auxiliary verb do. Past tense of do is did. Okay. Next, what are the 10 common models? What are the 10 common models? The 10 common
Ten
models
common
are
model.
can,
Uh,
could,
can,
will,
could,
would,
will,
may,
would,
might,
may,
shall,
might,
should,
shall,
must, and
shall,
ought.
must, and ought.
What ideas do models normally express? What ideas do models normally express? Models normally
Model
express
normally express
ideas about
ideas
necessity
about
or
necessity
possibility.
or possibility.
Very good. Okay, now I will give you a sentence, and you say a sentence with the same meaning but with a model, okay? Using can, could, may, etc. Here we go. John is able to speak French. John is able to speak French. John can speak
John
French.
and speak French.
Perhaps he works in a bank.
Perhaps he
Perhaps
works
he works in a bank. He might work
he might work
in a bank.
in a bank.
Very good. It is necessary for me to go to bed now. It is necessary for me to go to bed now. I must go to bed
Must go
now.
to bed now.
You are not allowed to smoke in this building. You are not allowed to smoke in this building. You can't smoke
We can
in this
smoke
building.
in this building.
Wait, what do we put after a model? What do we put after a model? We put the
We put
infinitive
the
without
infinitive
to
without
after a
to
model.
after a model.
Give me an example. Give me an example, please. I must send
I must
this
send
email today.
this email today.
Which model is the only exception to this rule? Which model is the only exception to this rule? Ought is the
Ought
only
is the
exception to this
only
rule.
exception. Hmm?
Ought is the
Ought
only
is
exception
the exception
into this rule.
to this rule.
Very good. Give me an example. Give me an example, please. I ought to see a
I want
doctor.
to see
A doctor.
a doctor.
Very good. Okay, what does the word set mean in Japanese? What does the word set mean in Japanese? The word set
The word
means
set mean
what does set to
uh,
in Japanese?
調整する in Japanese.
Very good. How long is the time set for a game of football? How long is the time set for a game of football? The time set
The
for
time
a
set
game of
for a
football
game of
is 90
football
minutes.
is 90
That
minutes.
is
That
45
is
minutes each
45
way.
minutes in
Each way.
each way.
Very good. What kind of life do you think is better? A life where you have a set time for doing everything, such as eating, sleeping, etc., or a life where you do these things whenever you want? What kind of life do you think is better? A life where you have a set time for doing everything, such as eating, sleeping, etc., or a life where you do these things whenever you want? I think a life
I think a life
where you
where you
do you want it, do you have a set time or anytime you want?
uh anytime.
Okay, one more.
I
I think a life
I think a life
where you do
where
those
you do
things
both things
whenever you want
whenever you
is
want
better than a
is
life
better than a
where you
life
have a set
where you
time
have a
for
time
doing everything,
for doing
such
everything,
as eating,
such as
sleeping,
eating,
etc.
sleeping, etc.
Very good. What did I set down on the table when I came into the classroom at the beginning of the lesson? What did I set down on the table when I came into the room at the beginning of the lesson? You set your book
You set
down
your
on
book
the
down
table
on the
when you
table
came into the
when you
room
came into
at the
the room
beginning of the
at the
lesson.
beginning of the lesson.
If your watch isn't showing the right time, what do you have to do? If your watch isn't showing the right time, what do you have to do? If my watch
My
isn't
watch
showing the right
is
time,
showing lifetime.
I have to set it
I
right.
have to set in life.
Well, what time is sunrise at the moment? What time is sunrise at the moment? Sunrise is at
Sunrise
about
is about uh
what time? 6
five
a.m. 5 a.m. at the moment.
5 at the moment.
And what time is sunset? What time is sunset? Sunset is
Sunset is
at about
at about 6
p.m.
p.m.
Very good. Okay. What do you consider to be the duty a person owes to the society in which they live? What do you consider to be the duty a person owes to the society in which they live? I consider that the
After that,
duty a
the
person
duty a
owes
person owes
to the society
to the
in
society
which they live
in which
is
they
to be
live
honest,
to be honest,
hardworking, etc.
hardworking, etc.
What are the duties of a policeman? What are the duties of a policeman? The duties
The
of a
duties of
policeman
a
are to
policeman
give people
are
help
to give people help
and information,
and information,
catch criminals,
transport,
etc.
can,
Catch
can
criminals,
catch criminals,
etc.
etc.
Do policemen wear their uniforms when they're off duty? Do policemen wear their uniforms when they're off duty? No. Policemen
No,
don't
policemen
wear their
don't wear
uniforms
their
when
uniform
they're off
when they
duty.
are on
They
duty.
only wear them
They only wear
when
them
they're on
when
duty.
they are on
When they're
duty.
on duty,
When
very good.
they are on duty.
If you brought a foreign car into your country, would you have to pay duty on it? If you brought a foreign car into your country, would you have to pay duty on it? Yes or no? Like tax.
Yes,
If I brought
if I
a
brought
foreign car
a foreign car
into my country,
into
I'd
my
have
country,
to pay
I have
duty on
to
it.
pay duty on it.
And if you didn't pay, what did happen? And if you didn't pay, what did happen? If I didn't pay,
If I didn't
they
pay,
might make me
they might
pay
make
a
me
fine
pay a
and
fine
even take
and even
the
take
car away from
the
me.
car away for me.
Very good. What are the various ways of learning a language? What are the various ways of learning a language? The various ways
The
of
various way
learning a
of
language are at
language
school
as
with a
at school
teacher
with the teacher
going to the country
going to the
where the
country
language is spoken,
where the language okay
where the language is
where
spoken,
the language isn't spoken,
practicing with a friend,
practices friends,
listening to the radio,
listening to the
watching
radio,
TV,
watching
etc.
TV, etc.
Is there much entertainment for teenagers in your hometown? Is there much entertainment for teenagers in your hometown? Yes or no?
Yes,
There is a lot
there is a
of
lot
entertainment
of
for
entertainment
teenagers
for
in my
teenagers
hometown.
in my hometown.
Very good. Is the weight of these two books about equal? Is the weight of these two books about equal? Yes. The weight
Yes.
of
The
those
weight
two
of the
books
both two books
is about equal.
is about equal.
Very good. Would you find it interesting to operate a factory machine? Would you find it interesting to operate a factory machine? Yes or no?
No,
I wouldn't find it
I wouldn't find
interesting to
interesting
operate a
to
factory
operate
machine.
a factory machine
Why not? Why not? Because
because
it can be boring.
can be boring.
Very good. Have you ever had an operation in hospital? Have you ever had an operation in hospital? Yes or no?
No,
I have never had
I never
an
have
operation
an
in hospital.
operation in hospital.
Very good. Give me a sentence containing the words by the time. Give me a sentence containing the words by the time, please. By the time he
By the
gets
time
here,
we get here,
dinner will be ready.
dinner will be ready.
What does by the time mean in that sentence? What does by the time mean in that sentence? By the time
This
in that
time,
sentence
the
means
sentence
at
means
some point
some point
between now
between
and when
now
she gets
and when
here.
we get here.
By the time you are 90
By the
years old.
time we're 90
One
old,
more.
yeah,
By the time you
yeah.
are 90 years old, do you suppose your hair will be gray? By the time you are 90 years old, do you suppose your hair will be gray? Yes. By the time
Yes, by
I'm
the time
90 years
my
old,
90 years
I
old,
suppose my
I
hair
suppose my
will be
hair
gray.
will be gray.
Will your English have improved by this time next month? Will your English have improved by this time next month? Yes. My
Yes,
English will
my
have
English
improved
will have
by
improved
this time next
by
month.
this time next month.
Very good. Okay, so that's the end of our revision. Let's have new work. Okay, repeat. As well as.
As well as.
Very good. Okay, listen. As well as means in addition and also. So as well as, in addition, and also. For example, we can say, I can speak Filipino and also English. Or we can say, I can speak Filipino as well as English. As well as is also used to compare. For example, I can't speak English as well as I speak Filipino. I speak it worse than Filipino. Let's practice. Can you speak English as well as you speak your own language? Can you speak English as well as you speak your own language? No, I can't
No,
speak
I
English
can speak
as well
English
as
as
I
well
speak
as
my
I
own
speak
language.
my
I
own
speak
language.
it worse
I speak
than
Tamar
my own language.
than my own language.
Very good. Do you take English lessons on Sunday as well as during the week? Do you take English lessons on Sunday as well as during the week? Yes or no?
No,
I don't take
I don't
English
take
lessons on
English lesson
Sunday
on
as well
Sunday
as
as
during the
well
week.
as during week.
What does that last question mean in other words? What does that last question mean in other words? That last
The
question
last
means
question
you
means
take
you
English
take
lessons
English lessons
during the week.
during the
But
week.
do you also
But you also
take English lessons
take English lesson
on Sunday?
on Sunday.
Very good. Next, repeat. Elder,
Elder,
eldest.
eldest.
Very good. Okay, listen. We generally use the word elder and eldest instead of older and oldest when speaking about people in the same family, your relatives. However, we cannot say elder than, we say older than. For example, we cannot say my sister is elder than me. We must say my sister is older than me. Let's practice. What's the difference between the words older and elder? What's the difference between the words older and elder? The difference between
The difference
the words
between
older
the word
and
older
elder
and
is that
elder is
we
that
generally
we
use the
generally
word
use
elder
the word
when
elder
speaking about
when
people
speak about
in the
people
same family,
in the same
and we
family,
cannot say
and we
elder
can't
than.
say elder than.
Well, have you got an elder brother? Have you got an elder brother? Yes or no?
Yes,
I I've got an
I've got
elder brother.
an elder
Are
brother.
are you the eldest in your family? Are you the eldest in your family? Yes or no?
No,
I'm not the eldest
I'm not.
in my family. I'm not
I,
the eldest
I'm not the eldest
in my family.
in my family.
Who is the eldest in your family? My
My brother
is the eldest
is the
in
eldest
my family.
in my family.
Very good. Next, repeat. Left,
Left,
rent,
rent,
advertise,
advertise.
in exchange for,
Hmm?
in exchange for.
In exchange for.
Very good. Okay, listen. The difference between to let and to rent is that to let means to lend something in exchange for money, whereas to rent means to borrow something in exchange for money. The word advertise is a verb. It is to tell the public about a product or service in order to persuade them to buy it. When we say in exchange for, it is the act of giving to someone and then giving you something else. For example, they were given food and shelter in exchange for work. So it means they have to work so that they will have food and house, shelter. Let's practice. What's the difference between to let and to rent? What's the difference between to let and to rent? The difference between
The
to
difference
let
between
and to rent
to let
is
and to
that
learn
to let
is that
means
to let
to
me
lend something
to lend
in
something
exchange for
in
money,
exchange for money,
whereas to rent
where
means
to lend me
to borrow something
to borrow
in
something
exchange for
in
money.
for money.
Right? Supposing you had a house or a flat to let, how would you advertise it? Supposing you had a house or a flat to let, how would you advertise it? Supposing I had
Supposing
a house
I had a
or a
house
flat to
or
let,
a flat to let,
I'd advertise it
I'd
in
advertise
the
it
newspapers
in the
or
newspapers
on the
mo-
internet.
on the internet.
What's the average monthly rent for a small flat in your town? What's the average monthly rent for a small flat in your town? The average
The
monthly
average
rent
of the rent
for a small flat
for a small
in my
flat
town is
in my town is
how much? How much is the rent for an apartment?
uh $5,000.
Five
Oh,
thousand
I
dollars.
don't.
Expensive. Very good. Okay. How much does it cost to rent a car for one day in your town? How much does it cost to rent a car for one day in your town? It costs about
It costs
like
about
5,000 yen
5,000 yen
to rent a car
to rent a
for
car
one day in my
for
town.
one day in my town.
Do you ever rent DVDs to watch at home? Do you ever rent DVDs to watch at home? Yes or no?
Yes.
I sometimes rent
We sometimes rent
DVDs to
DVDs
watch at home.
to watch at home.
Very good. Okay, next, listen. We can sometimes say to rent out instead of to let. Okay, let's practice. Is it common in your country for people to rent out rooms in their house to students, for example? Is it common in your country for people to rent out rooms in their house to students, for example? Yes or no?
Yes.
It's common in
It's
my
common
country
in my
for
country
people to
for
rent out
people to
rooms
rent out
in their
room
house
in their
to
house
students.
to student.
Very good. Okay, so now let's move on to reading.
Okay.
Okay, so our reading is at stage 6, paragraph page 462. Okay, and the
462.
62, and the last headword was overeat. Okay, please start at page 463. Headword charge, serious, commit, battery service.
Okay. Charge serious